Is there stuff you took away from that conversation, like principles about how to get strong, how to build muscle mass, that like broaden and deepen your understanding of that task?
Definitely. And I'll do these in bullet points because if people want the logic behind them and the mechanism, they can listen to that episode.
Yeah, it's a really good episode.
I'll start with heat and cold really quickly and just say that avoid cold immersion. So ice baths and being in cold water up to the neck, uncomfortably cold, within the 4 hours after a training session that's designed to evoke an adaptation, either endurance, hypertrophy, or strength, because the inflammation that you experience from a hard endurance workout or from a hard strength or a hard hypertrophy workout is the stimulus that you're going to adapt to. The cold water immersion reduces inflammation and can short circuit some of that. After 4 hours, you're probably okay, but if you can do it a different day or you can do it before those sessions, that's better. Heat, however, can be done immediately after training, and it's probably beneficial because of the way that it dilates the vascular system and perfuses the muscles and ligaments, et cetera, with more nutrients.
And I should just mention that was a crucial piece of information. It's a little bit surprising. Was it surprising to you?
Absolutely. Because the way I posed the question to him about cold was, I hear that getting into an ice bath or a cold water immersion after training can reduce hypertrophy, but I'm guessing it's not that big of a deal. And he said, no, it is a big deal. It will short circuit your progress. Now, for people that are only interested in performance, who are doing a lot of workouts and trying to recover, but not trying to grow muscle, get stronger, or build endurance, then it makes sense to do cold. Because
like skill development or something.
Skill development, or you're an athlete in season, so you have to, what's so great about Andy is he really points out the specific ways to train given your specific goals.
So for getting swole, stay out of the ice bath after a workout. There you go.
Lex is always making fun of the meatheads. I love it. I put myself in the meathead category only because I don't do a real sport now. I work out and I run, which is
I'm an aspiring meathead. Okay, so
one of these days I'm going to get back to jiu-jitsu, or I'm going to get to jiu-jitsu. Now, in terms of training, he has this beautiful 3x5 concept for strength. Pick 3 exercises, compound exercises, multi-joint movements. Do 3 to 5 exercises for 3 to 5 repetitions per set, rest 3 to 5 minutes, and do that 3 to 5 times per week. And for details, you can, again, look to the episode. It's time-stamped. But what's interesting about this is 3 to 5 times a week is a lot for a muscle group. Squatting 5 times a week for 5 reps, meaning you're working pretty heavy, meaning you're close to failure but not failure for strength generally. What Andy taught me is that people who are training mostly for strength can do these low rep type regimens frequently because most of the adaptation is neural, and because you're not pushing to failure in most cases, you don't get that sore. And so it's the motor neurons getting the muscle fibers to contract more intensely or with more efficiency in other ways that's leading to these strength gains. And this is why powerlifters can train every day or 5 days a week or 4 days a week. For hypertrophy, I learned from Andy that the repetition range can be pretty broad. You're think anywhere from 6 to 30 repetitions. You should do 10 sets per muscle group per week, maybe even a bit more.
So high volume.
High volume, but you have to go to failure or beyond in order to stimulate growth. Why does it work at such a great range of repetitions? Well, there apparently are 3 ways that you stimulate hypertrophy, and maybe more. One is tissue microdamage to the tissue. The other is through some sort of tension-based changes in the molecular gene programs of cells that lead to protein synthesis that are distinct from damage. And the other are metabolic effects of like high repetition work of superfusion of the muscle with blood. We know that third category exists because people are now doing this blood restriction training where they cuff off a muscle and they'll use a really light weight. I've done these before. You can use a 5-pound weight and do curls with this, and you are in pain and the muscles are swelling up with blood. It does lead to hypertrophy, but in general, you're not sore. You're not doing tissue damage. And by the way, don't just tourniquet off a muscle because you have to use the proper cuffs because you need the blood still to flow in one direction. You can't just cinch it off, or you'll potentially kill yourself if you get a clot or you do it wrong. So get the appropriate cuffs. They're out there. And then for endurance, I learned something really cool. So I work out, basically. I go to the gym every other day on average. 3 or 4 days a week I do that, but generally not 2 days in a row. It's workout. Next day I'll do cardio. Next day. And the cardio for me is always a 30 to 45 minute jog, kind of zone 2 cardio. Andy informed me that to build endurance while building strength and maintaining some muscle size, or even building muscle size, I would be wise to take 1 day a week and add to that all out max heart rate work for 90 seconds at least. So do 90 seconds, then rest, and then maybe do another 90-second all out sprint. I almost missed my flight going from Los Angeles to Austin. I did that all out sprint in the airport yesterday. So I actually think it's done for me.
So there was a sprinting Dr. Huberman throughout
with 3 bags.
That's awesome.
Because I travel. Generally, I'll travel with too much stuff.
I love how you were probably running late for a flight and used that as an opportunity to explore.
Well, as I was doing it, I was thinking to myself, okay, Andy, that's a 90-second sprint, because I got to the security line. I finally got TSC.
But that's for extending endurance?
That's for, yeah, it actually has some carryover effects on endurance if you're doing the other stuff. And then he also said 1 day a week to do this workout, and I haven't done it yet. Maybe we do it tomorrow. It'd be fun, which is you run a mile. You ask yourself, how long did that take? Let's say it took 8 minutes. Then you walk or rest for 8 minutes. Then you run another mile as fast as you can. And then you rest for the equivalent period. And you do that 1 to 3 times once per week. So as an all-around fitness program, you could collapse this into something where you say, okay, you're going to work out with the weights for about an hour every other day. Maybe take 2 days off every once in a while, maybe not. You're going to do 6 to 15 repetitions. You're going to push to failure on some of those, not all, because some of those are designed to build more strength. You're not going to failure and heavier. Some are designed for hypertrophy, higher rep, and going to failure. And then on off days, you're going to jog for 30 to 45 minutes. But for 2 days a week, you're either at the end of your jog or whatever, you're going to do some all-out sprints for 90 seconds and then rest and repeat. And for another day, you're going to do these mile repeats. That's a pretty large chunk of exercise movement. But if you kind of thread through the middle of all that, what you end up with is some decent strength building protocols, some decent hypertrophy, some cardiovascular training that establishes the so-called A base or a so-called base. So you're not going to get really good at anything. You're not going to become a marathoner this way, an optimizing marathon. You're not going to optimize powerlifting. You're not going to optimize hypertrophy. But for the typical person, 75% of people, 75% of the time, they want some muscle, they want some strength, they want some endurance, and they want the capacity to sprint to the security gate without leaving a lung in the terminal.
So it's for like functional stuff, like your life going up the stairs is easier, moving about, all the kind of just regular life.
Yeah, and I should mention that cold showers after training don't seem to short circuit the training effect to the same extent that immersion in cold water does. And that really speaks to the fact that cold showers, even though they can provide some of the adrenaline for the mental effects of like, oh, I have a lot of adrenaline in my system from a cold shower and I can remain calm. There's utility to that. It's not going to have the same metabolic effects or other positive effects that cold water exposure has been shown to have. And that's unfortunate because most people have access to cold showers. Not everyone has access to a cold dunk or an ice dunk. But here in Austin, you have this place, and no, they don't pay me to say this, but I always like going to this place whenever I'm in town, this place, Kuya, and they've got a sauna and a couple ice baths, and they even have those salt tanks that you can float on the surface.
They have ice baths there?
They have cold water immersion. It's pretty cold.
Still haven't done an ice bath.
Really?
I need to. Yeah, I need to.
You're Russian. You'll probably get in and you won't even.
Yeah, what is this? What's the big deal here?
Exactly. Or people pay for this. I did a post, right, of you as a baby.
Yeah.
It's I had to go deep to get that photo of Lex in a bassinet in the snow.
Yeah. Because
in Russia, they actually did this for a long time. They thought that and indeed it does build the immune system to expose babies to the cold.
I still don't know where you got that photo. And you were able to find exactly the right. It was great. It's great.
You didn't have a tie on, but you had all the look and seriousness that you do now. So it's clearly nature nurture. Clearly you were born with that.